Hello and how are you? My name is Mahin Mbark and I welcome you to another video of learning how to program websites or how to create websites using PHP. In today's video, we're going to proceed from where we stopped at in the previous class, and if you were following, you realize that we stopped at PHP for loops. So today we're going to proceed with PHP functions. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So if you still remember, last time we had installed XAMPP, we had run a basic PHP file, and I'm going to help you remember, or we're going to have a recap of what I'd looked at in the previous videos, whereby we talked about something like having the PHP server on your computer. As you can see, I'm using XAMPP. So if you're using Windows, you're supposed to be using either XAMPP or WAMP. So for me, I'm using XAMPP, and the main point is it will be used to run our PHP files. So remember, when we installed our XAMPP, we said that there is a place where we're supposed to keep our PHP files that are to be executed, and that place was the htdocs. And then you know where htdocs is located. If you're using your Windows machine, you just simply go to disk C, and then you'll see a folder of XAMPP, and then you go to open that folder, and then you'll see a folder called htdocs. So in that htdocs is the place where you save your web applications of PHP. So my htdocs folder is already here, so I'm going to open it. So it is this one. So if I open my htdocs folder, I'll be able to see my web projects, and they are here. So you remember the last time we were practicing, I created a folder called learn PHP, this one here. So I'm going to open this folder in Visual Studio Code, so I should be able to edit or create more code. So let me create a new instance of Visual Studio Code, and then I'm going to drag and drop the folder into Visual Studio Code. So this is my Visual Studio Code, and this is the folder. So I'm going to open this project by simply dragging and dropping it into Visual Studio Code like this. So to load, and then you can see the project has been opened in Visual Studio Code. So every file here, we did it together in the previous classes. If you did not follow the previous classes, I really advise you to go and follow them step by step until you reach this point. So you can see here, this is a file called one.php, meaning that if I finish starting my local host, which is XAMPP, for those who are using Windows, just simply go to XAMPP and start your PHP Apache. You will see it there. So for me, mine is XAMPP. I'll start it here. See, I've already started it because I'm using Mac. So I'm going to open the folder. I'm going to run the file, this file 1, by simply going to my browser, and this is the browser, like Google Chrome, and then I'm going to type in localhost, and then I put stroke learn underscore PHP, and then this is the main folder. As you can see, this is the main folder of learning PHP. Then if I say stroke 1.php, I'll be able to open that 1.php. So I say 1.php, I'm able to see my hello world. So if I come here and I manipulate this file by adding a maybe exclamation mark, and I save by pressing Ctrl S, I come and refresh here, I'll be able to see hello world with a what? With the exclamation mark. So we looked at all these things in the previous classes. If you were not following, I really advise you to go and watch our previous videos in this very playlist until you're on this level. So with that simple recap, let us resume our business from where we stopped at in the previous classes, and that is loops. So last time we looked at loops. We did not finish them, but in future we'll come back to loops. but we're going to proceed to functions. So as you know, we are following W3 schools syllabus. So you should open W3 schools and come and read these notes. So today we're going to create to learn what is meant by a function. So as you can see here, they say the real power of PHP comes with what? From its function. PHP has more than 1,000 built-in function, and in addition you can create your own custom function. So in simple terms here, before we define the word function, before we look at what we're talking about here, let us first define what is meant by function. A function is a piece of code that can be executed only when we need it. I repeat, a function is a piece of code that we write to do a certain task, and it can only be executed only when we need it. So when you create that piece of code, we say that you're creating a function, and when you execute that code or that is in a function, we say you're calling that function. So today we're going to learn how we can create our own functions and how we can call them. But before we create our own functions, we should know that even PHP gives us different so many functions that comes within it. Okay, and those predefined functions that come with PHP, they help us to perform different things that we would have done by ourselves, but we can call those functions, and they help us to do those simple things. For example, if we want to know how long a string is, there's a function that can help us to do that, other than us counting how many characters are in that particular string, and so many other functions. So you can see here, PHP has over 1,000 built-in functions, and you can check these functions on this link. Okay, so today we're going to focus much more on our own functions, or article custom function. We're going to learn how we can create our own function and how we can call them, and then different types of functions. So let's begin by creating just our simple custom function. So this is the syntax that we follow when you're creating a custom function. So I'm going to open a file called PHP Functions, and I will just simply come to my project. As you can see, the project is here. So I'm going to create a new file by simply clicking new and then say file, and I'm going to say 11_php functions.php. So this is a file that I've done that I've just created. So I'm going to open my PHP tag by creating a less than sign, then question mark PHP. Okay, and then I'm going to create now a function. Okay, so we're going to create a function that will tell us our name. Okay, so to do that, I'll just simply say function. So to create a function in PHP, you first write the word function, or the keyword function. After writing the keyword function, the next thing you write is the name of that function. So why do we give it a name? We give it a name because we want to call that function later. So I can call it say _my _name. So also when you're creating a function, you're not supposed to you're not supposed to put their spaces in its naming. Then now you open bracket and close it, and then after that bracket and close, then you come after those brackets and open curly brackets, and in those curly brackets, it is where we're going to write the logic that will be executed when this function is called. So let's go ahead and put here the logic. Say my name. So I'm going to say echo, and then I put my name is Mohindo Mubarak. Okay, so I save, and then after I'm going to execute this piece of file. Okay, so I'll go to our localhost, and then I put stroke 11_php function. So when I press enter, you can see the file has executed, but we are not able to see anything. What does it mean? It means that we have successfully defined the function. Okay, we have defined the function, but we have not called that function. And you remember, when we define function, we say that a function will be just a piece of code that we can define, and it can only be executed only when we do what? Only when we call it. So if you don't call that function, then that piece of code will not be executed. So it means that we can define as many functions as we want, but those pieces of code are only executed when we want them. So let's go ahead and call this function, and we see how it will work. So to call a function, we just simply write its name, say underscore my name, like this, and then you open the bracket and close it, and at the end of it we put a semicolon. So by doing like this, you will have called this function. So this function is going to call this piece of code, and then it will be executed. Okay, so I'll save, and then I come and refresh. You can see my name is Muhindo Mbarak. So what does it mean? It means that we can write a single piece of code, and then we can call it multiple times. So what does it mean? I can just simply come and put here maybe a br tag. Okay, and then I call this function many times. See, I call it many times. I've called it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if I call it 6 times, it means that this function is going to be executed 6 times. Okay, can you see? The function has been executed 6 times. So that's the beauty of creating functions. You write your code only one time, and then you can reuse it. So if there is a necessary for you to change something, maybe I want this name to be bolded, so I can put a b tag here, a b tag, and then I come and close it here. I just bold it at one time. You see, I bold it. So if I come and refresh this side, you can see every part has been updated. So it means that functions are very important. Why? Because we define them only one time, and then we can call them what? We can call them multiple times. And when you update them, we update them only one time, and then we can reuse them. They are really, really great pieces of it's a great piece of what? Of PHP. So you can create different functions. You can create a function that tells time. You can create a function that do multiple things. So the question would be like, when do you create function? So you create function when you write a piece of code and you think you're going to reuse it. So if you maybe write a code that's going to be doing this particular thing multiple times, so instead of you repeating yourself, you better create as a function, and then you'll be calling that particular code. So that is how we create a custom function. So another type of functions, we have what we call argumented functions. So argumented functions, they are the one that we give something to do with it, and then those argumented function will use what we have given it to accomplish its tasks. For example, it's just like how you can have maybe a machine to process some raw data, to process something. So that machine, it will need some raw inputs for it to process. For example, we maybe have a milling machine. So for that milling machine to process, you have to give it something like maize. It will process that maize, and then give you the output. So function that we need them to process something, we call them what? Argumented functions. For example, this function, it is static. You see, we call it only says one name. But what if we wanted a function that can say anyone's names? Then it means that function need to have some argument, or it need to have some data that it should receive, so that it should be able to do what? To perform a logic and then succeed. So let's go ahead and create an argumented function. So I'll go ahead and be like saving this file, and then come and say new file. I'm going to call this one file number 12, and I'm going to call it argumented functions, like this. So this is the file. So I can come and open it here first, and you can see the file is doing nothing. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a function that is going to display anyone's name. Okay, so we'll open the bracket and start PHP, and then define a function. Okay, so to define a function, begin with the keyword function, after the keyword function, we go ahead and create the function name. For example, the function name is going to be display name, display underscore name, and then open bracket, close, and then curly bracket and close, like this. So the use of this function, it's going to display name, but we need to tell it the name we should display for it to be able to do what? To display a name. Okay. Then let us go ahead and put the what we call argument. So it have to receive something. Okay. So to receive something, you come here in these curly brackets. These brackets that you opened here on top, and then you put there a name of a variable that you need to refer to. Okay. So this name is what it will receive, what you need to display. So to do that, now let's go ahead and use this name and display it. So I can now come and say echo and say this is. So let us go ahead and put the name. So I mean that this variable is going to be used here. This is whatever name. Okay. So maybe let us surround this one with what? With a b tag, so it can be bolded. Okay. So I'll put here like this. So I mean that this function, it will have to receive something, so it can be able to do what? To display it. So let's go ahead and refresh this. So you can see nothing is being displayed. Why there is nothing being displayed is because we have not called that function. Okay. Let's go ahead and call the function. So I'll just simply put the function name and then I call it like this. So if I come and refresh, I'll see an error. Why am I seeing an error? It's because this function expected something. It expected an argument, okay, but it did not receive that argument. So that's why the function is saying, the error is saying we supplied very few arguments. So let's go ahead and give it some argument. Okay. So to give it some argument, we come here when you are calling it and pass there something. So I can say maybe John Doe. So if I save, you can see, if I come and refresh, this is John Doe name. So you can see the function is able to do what? To perform a specific task by a specific argument. So I can go ahead and call this one again Jane, and then come and say Joanne, and come and say Juliet, and then come and say Jessica. Okay. So if I come and save, you see we are calling the same function, but we're going to use it to perform different things. So if I come and refresh, you can see this is the John Doe name, this is Jane Doe name, Joan Doe, and you should know that you of course you know this is only one function, but is able to display dynamic names. And how is it able to perform dynamic names? Is able to perform dynamic names by giving it by giving it arguments. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the argument is, but what matters is that it received what? It received the argument. So you can be creative and use this function to do different things or different kind of tasks. It can be a function to display names, can be a function to display anything, as long as it receives what? An argument. So these are the what we call argumented functions. So a function can even receive more than one argument. Okay. For example, let us say that it displays the name and the age. So to do that, we can just simply create another function that can receive argumented functions, multiple arguments. So you separate arguments by putting a comma. Maybe you can say here an age, the age, and then you can put here here we can rephrase this age in this place. Okay, or maybe this is the one, and then you can put here maybe now the age, and then you put here maybe a b tag, and then you close it, b tag, and so you can put here the age. Okay, so here it means that this function will now need a second parameter of the age. So when you're calling this function, you have to pass now the second parameter of the age, and this parameter can be separated by what? By use of a comma. So if it is a string, you have to surround it with what? With double quotes. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh, and we see, if you come and refresh, you can see the function receiving multi-parameter, and it's able to do what? To use those arguments. You can call them arguments, you can call them parameters, it is all the same. So those are what we call argumented functions. So now let's go ahead and learn one more thing, what we call another type of function, we call them returning functions. So returning functions, they are kind of functions that we expect them to perform a certain logic, and then they return to us something. Just like the way we say, you may have maybe a maize milling machine. You'll give it maize, it will process those maize, and then gives you the results, or the flour from that maize processing machine. Likewise to functions, we can give it some data, it processes that data, and then it gives us the results. So those functions that return back something, we call them returning function. So let's go ahead and create another type of function that we call returning function. So I'll copy the name and then come on here and then create a new file. Okay, I'm going to call it PHP returning functions. Okay, returning function, and the file is number 13. Okay, so let me go ahead and put it here. Okay, so that's the file. So let us go ahead and now do what? And now create our returning function. Okay, so returning function, we say that's a function that will process something and then it returns to us something. So let us create a function that will add two numbers and then gives us the answer. So you're going to create that by just simply beginning with the function name by saying function, and then we give this function a name, sum. Okay, sum or addition. Okay, add something like this. So this addition function is going to take two parameters. Okay, it's going to take two parameters. It can take as many as you want, but here in the example, it's going to take two parameters. It will perform addition, then give us the response. So I can just simply say the first value is maybe A, and then the second value is going to be B, and then it's going to return then like this. Okay, so it's going to return the answer. So you can define here another value, local variable, and say equal sign and say A plus B, and then to return something, we just simply write the word return. Okay, the keyword return, and then you put what it should return. So I mean that to call this function, we'll provide it two parameters, the first parameter and the second parameter. So it will add them, and then it will give us back the answer. So now let's go ahead and see how we can make use of this function. So to make use of this function, I'll just simply come and say maybe x equal, or maybe you can say answer equals add, and then we pass the two parameters, maybe 10, 55. Okay, so what is going to happen, this function is going to be called and will be given 10 and 55. So it will add them and then give us the answer, and whatever answer will come from this function, it will be saved in this answer. So that's what we call returning functions. They are also very helpful because sometimes we don't need to display anything using a function, but we need this function to process something. So let's go ahead and now display what we have come up with. So I can just simply say equal, and then come and say 10, or maybe you can come and say here maybe my x equals 10, and then equals 10, and then y equals that, and then here I pass, instead of passing physical figures, I can pass here x and pass here y. Okay, so I come and echo by simply saying x, and then I put plus, and then put y, and then equals, and then I put the answer, like this. So if I save like this, we should expect 10 plus 20, it will be passed here, and then the answer will come and be stored in this value, and then we display. So let's go ahead and refresh and we see what I've come up with. If I come and refresh, you can see 10 plus 20 equals 30. And who added these two things for us is what we call the the returning what? The returning function. So if I come and add here maybe 25, refresh, save, come and refresh, you can see 10 plus 25 equals to 35. And who did that for us is this add function. So a function can contain as many pieces of lines as possible, but here I'm giving just a simple function. So it can be a function that you can use to upload your file. So all the logic of uploading a file, you put it all in one particular function, and then you keep on calling it. So with simplicity, you can write maybe like 20 pieces of code, put them together. So instead of you repeating yourself, you just keep on reusing them. So that is what we meant. That's what we call returning functions. For example, let us create a function that's going to be calculating the percentage of a certain value. So to do that, we can just simply come and say function, we call function, and then we call maybe percentage, calculator, and then we give this, will receive two values. It will receive the number and comma. It will also receive the maximum value that need to be converted, okay, or the maximum value. And then here inside this function, we'll put now the logic. Okay, so percentage, okay, equals, it will be the number divided by the maximum value, and then times 100, and then that will be the percentage. So let's go ahead and call this function. For example, input here a br tag or a hr tag, so it can be separated, h_r, and then I come and call it. Okay, so let's call this function. We can just simply call it by saying let's go define also other values. X equals 20, and the maximum, or the y, is maybe 40. So let's go ahead and call this function. We can just simply say echo, I say xx of what? Of yy is, you can as well call a function like this by putting a curly bracket, and then you call the function, okay, this one, within a string. So no, you can't call the function like that. That's maybe percentage equals, then you call the percentage, and then you can pass xx, and then comma, we pass yy. So it's going to find the percentage of 20, of this, of 2 yy, which is 40. So xx percent of that, then you have to give the answer here. Here we pass it here like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. You can see the percentage of did you return, or we did not return here. You see, that's why I'm not able to see anything. So why? Because we did not return. So I have to come here and return the value. So return. Okay, so let's go ahead. The percentage of 20 is 50. So maybe we can put here 50%. Okay, so if I come and refresh, the percentage of 20 is 50%. The percentage of the 20 of, how should I say it? 20% of 40 is 50. How should I say it? I don't know, but you're getting the point. 20% of 40 is 50. I don't know. Okay, 20%. Okay, I think 20% of 40 is 50. Can you see? 20% of 40 is 50%. So if I come and say maybe 10, okay, so you can refresh here. You can see 10% of 40 is 25%. So the main point here is for you to understand that you can use a percentage, a returning function to do for you some hectic work only once, and then when you want to use it, you keep on just calling it multiple times as much as you want, and the function can have as many lines as possible. So that's how we use functions, and that's why we need functions. Now we have so many pre-built functions, inbuilt function of PHP. Let's go ahead and create another file of inbuilt functions of PHP, and then we look at what PHP has given us that can help us when you're creating programs. So I hope you've understood what is meant by function. I hope you've understood what is meant by argumented functions. I hope you have understood what is meant by a returning function. So also watch as you practice. Don't just sit and watch like a movie. Okay, so number 14 is going to be PHP inbuilt function. Okay, so that is number 14 today. And then come and remove this piece of line, and then come and start looking at the PHP inbuilt functions. Okay, question mark PHP. So there are so many PHP inbuilt functions. You can come and explore them by just simply coming to Google and then search PHP inbuilt functions. So you'll see there are so many here. There are so many here. Okay, they're here, so many of them. But for us, we're going to look at a few of them. Okay, so if you want them, come to Laboratory Schools function and then click here built-in functions. Okay, so these are the functions that are in PHP. We have functions that are about arrays, functions that are about calendars, functions that are about dates, functions that are about directories, functions that are about errors, function about exception, about file, about FTP, JSON, and so many. So let us look, for example, functions about arrays. Okay, so here are the array related functions. Okay, so this is the function that can help us to create what? An array. And this is the function that can help us to flip or exchange an array. So there are so many. Okay, so there are so many here. You can come and play with them. There are so many here, you see, for sorting an array and the rest. But the most important ones that we use, they are string functions. Okay, for example, a function that will count the length of the string. You see, all these are what? They are PHP functions. Can come and play with them. Okay, so let us look at the function, for example, that will count the length of the string. Okay, so if you want to know how long a string is, you can just simply say echo. Let's say that you have a string here, name equals Mohindo, okay, Mubarak. Now you want to know how long this string is. You can know it by just simply come and say echo and say the name and then put $sign is, the name this has, and then put you count it. Okay, you can say maybe len. Okay, because so if you want to count the string length, you just simply say str len. Okay, and then you pass the function that you pass the argument of string that you want to count. So you should notice that here we did not define this function strlen. It was already defined within PHP. All what we do is just call it, and then it can do the rest for us. Okay, so if I come and put here, and then surround this one with this, so you will know that we'll have done what? We'll have seen the length of this string. So let's go ahead and refresh. There's an error. There's an error. Maybe so we forget a semicolon. Length is got this. strlen equals this, and then say echo. Oh, semicolon. I've not put here semicolon last year. Save. Okay, strlen. Refresh. strlen. Okay, strlen, not stlen. Okay, so if you can see, the name Muhindo Barak has 16 what? Characters. So if I come and refresh here, you can see the name Barak has 16 characters. Okay, so there are so many functions that we can use. There is reverse. Okay, so strrev, it will do for us the reverse of the what? Of the string. So if I say strrev, it will be the reverse for us of a string. If I come and refresh, you can see this string has been reversed. Let me remove everything and you see how it has happened. Okay, let's say echo. So if I come and refresh, how to update it by putting this guy here. Okay, so you can see this name is going to be reversed. So if I come and refresh, you can see the name has been reversed. So, and we are not the one who did that logic by ourselves, but PHP did it for us. You can even know the time. Okay, for example, if you come and say date. Okay, come and look at here the date functions. In build function that are related today, they are also somewhere here. Okay, so in simple terms, PHP gives us so many functions that we can use to do what? To help us program very fast. Substring, it will return a part of a string. For example, if I want to cut the name, I can just simply say sub what? Sub str, and then I pass how long I want this string to be. Okay, so you can see it takes it takes 2 arguments, and you pass those arguments how long, the length of the string that you want to be cut, where it should begin from, and to stop from, and then the string itself. So by doing like this, to be able to give us a sub string. So you can come and play with these functions of what? Of PHP that are in build at your own free time. So otherwise, that's what we'll cover today. We have covered PHP functions, and we have covered PHP custom functions. We have covered PHP argumented functions. We have also covered returning functions of PHP, and we have also covered some inbuilt functions of PHP. So if you want to learn more, you'll have to come here to W3 Schools and get the more details about what you've learned. So I hope you've understood all what we've looked at today. Keep practicing. Don't watch them just like movies. And until we meet in the next class. So if you want to see the previous classes, come to our YouTube channel. Search Learn It with Muhindo, and then come to the channel, and then come to the playlist, And then for web programming of PHP, you'll find them in this playlist with red color, this one with red color. So you'll find them here in this one with the yellow color, web for beginners. So when you click there, you'll be able to see all the previous videos that we've covered up to the latest one here. So that's it for today. Until we meet in another class, goodbye.